So, I don't know if I'm alone in this, but it's always felt to me like it's way easier to get hit by a flashbang than it is to hit other people with a flashbang. But maybe it's like Roadhog's Hook, you know, you're only seeing the times that they succeeded because otherwise you don't get to watch the kill cam. I recognize that, but I still couldn't help feeling like I was getting robbed out of a lot of my flashbangs, like a lot of my flashbangs, like one per game. And after some investigation, I found out that there's actually a lot of fuckery that goes down with McGee's flashbang. Just lots of reasons for it to go wrong. Now, sometimes these reasons are bullshit, but fair. Like when the flashbang barely grazes a small corner, so even though the animation covers the enemy, the splash radius is limited by the level's geometry. In reality, these flashbangs can look like duds if you just barely hit a corner somewhere. I mean, I'm not saying it should go through walls, but it'd be nice if the behavior was at least consistent with the other characters' explosives. It's just fucking further proof that Blizzard just really fucking hates McCree, but that is far from the worst of it. Now, I know it sounds like I'm just being nitpicky, like how common can this actually be, right? So let's play a little game to see if stuff like this actually matters in a real game. We'll call it Will It Stun, where we'll take your knowledge of McCree's flashbang and test it against real life examples. Scenario 1. You've just thrown the flashbang at Tracer. You can clearly see its trajectory. It's about halfway through its arc, and by the time it finishes its arc, she should be within its blast radius. So I ask you, will it stun? Answer. No. You see, what you thought was the trajectory arc was actually just a little left of the actual trajectory arc. Maybe because of lag, maybe because parts of the staircase model are passable for projectiles, creating a slight optical illusion, and maybe for reasons we'll discuss later in the video. At any rate, the flashbang actually explodes to the right, slightly behind this pillar, rendering it completely useless to enemies on the other side, which of course leads to your death. Annoying, yes, but fair. You can't really control stuff like that. It's just kind of bad luck while flicking around. I'll give you that. But we are just getting started. Scenario 2. You've decided to take on a Reaper in close combat because you've just wiped like half the enemy team and it seems like a good time to retake the choke. Your flashbang's off cooldown, and with no stairs or pillars around, there's no chance for it to intersect random shit, so you will let loose your flashbang at point blank. I ask you, will it stun? Of course not. Why the fuck would it? It's only aimed right at his fucking torso. Here's the thing, the flashbang looks like it comes from McCree's left hand, not only from your point of view, but also from a third-person perspective, but it doesn't, as you can see from the fact that it passes right through this wall, and it passes right fucking through Reaper. What's actually happening, regardless of what you're seeing, is that the flashbang is actually firing from McCree's center of mass, whizzing right by Reaper, which of course leads to your death. Now, if you're keeping count, so far that means the projectile arc is wrong, the hand animation is wrong, and the third-person perspective is wrong. But we're not done! Scenario fucking 3! An enemy McCree jumps you from behind. He's completely wasted his own flashbang by missing his shots, so you've got the perfect opportunity for revenge. You quickly whip around and toss out your own flashbang, hoping to pull off your combo. Now look, there's no stairs or walls around, you're at point blank, and your crosshair is aimed right at his feet. I ask you one last time, will it stun? Fucking nope! In fact, it won't even explode at his feet. It actually exploded about a quarter of a second ago while you were turning. I even showed this to you a few seconds ago, but the reason it's so hard to notice why these flashbangs aren't working is because it all happens so fucking fast. Now, if you've learned anything from these scenarios, it's that what you're seeing McCree do has absolutely nothing to do with how the flashbang behaves. It's just poorly timed and positioned artwork that has no bearing on what's happening on the server. Because not only does it not release where his hand is, it doesn't release when his hand is. It releases immediately upon pressing E instead of a second later when his hand releases it. In fact, when you pause the footage, you can clearly see two flashbangs, the one in McGee's hand and the one that released a quarter of a second ago. So when you whip around and perfectly time your hand to release at the enemy's feet, you're actually just stunning the fucking rocks that you were facing a second ago. Now in theory, you want all your abilities to come from your center, where the crosshair is aiming so they don't hit into walls on your left, and you want your abilities to have as little delay as possible so that there's less variables to predict by the time it actually goes off. So sooner is theoretically better, but unless anyone tells you otherwise, most people will go off those very quick glimpses of what they're actually seeing instead of what's being sent to the server, which is why so many flashbangs feel like duds and why it's so hard to figure out why they feel like duds. It looks close enough to be passable, passable in real time, but if you've ever felt cheated out of a flashbang, this is probably why. It took me like 50 fucking hours on McCree before I finally realized what was happening, and even then I only did it by rewatching the footage in slow motion, and even then I still find myself reflexively aiming it where it should be instead of where it magically flies out of his dick. Now, am I proposing that they change the flashbang's trajectory and increase its delay? Of fucking course not. I mean, that would probably just make him worse, and I'm afraid that if they nerf poor McCree one more time, he might not just fall out of the meta, he might start physically falling out of the game. I mean, I'm not pretending to offer an alternative solution. This video is just for your benefit, so you don't need to spend like 50 hours of your life wondering why the universe seems to hate you in particular like I did. I mean, fuck, man, I just don't want him to have another nerf. I mean, God forbid I, of all people, be the person who gives Blizzard yet another reason to look at McCree and say, fuck that guy.